Tonight, in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television, Cameroonians are celebrating May 1st today when members of labor unions in Yaoundé and here in the economic capital Douala want the salary of workers increased. They say that the basic minimum wage of an employed Cameroonian be increased from 28,000 francs to 100,000 francs CFA. Still with regards to Labour's Day, trade unionists that is in the public service in the nation's capital still today failed to take part in the traditional march past ceremony. We'll tell you why in the course of this newscast. Also ahead, less than 2 days to the launching of the University Games, the rector of the host institution, Jodene Oyono, has promised that accommodation would not be a problem. Details in a moment. Good evening to you viewers. Welcome to join us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. Leaders of labor unions in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, are demanding wage increment and better working conditions. They said that the basic minimum wage of workers be increased from 28,000 francs to 100,000 francs CFA. It was on the sidelines of activities marking the 128th edition of the International Labour's Day. We shall be coming back to that report in the course of this newscast. The time for us to take you to the northwest region of Cameroon to talk about a good number of plastic bags that have been seized from traders in the markets and shops in that part of the country by council officials. The exercise was carried out by a control team from the Delegation of Commerce in collaboration with their counterparts from the Delegation of Environment and Nature Protection. It is intended to get rid of non-biodegradable plastics circulating in the markets. Pamela Ndukong tells us more.
The population of Bamenda 2 and 3 were taken by surprise when the check team from the Divisional Delegation of Environment, in collaboration with that of Trade, stormed some market areas and shops purposely to seize non-biodegradable plastic bags that were still in the keeping of some traders. The delegation that was headed by the divisional delegate Ken Wilfred made their first stop at the Bamenda main market, where a good number of the non-biodegradable plastic bags were confiscated. During the check, some of the traders hold that the government should have introduced and publicized alternative packaging methods and materials before gradually wiping out the environmental unfriendly non-biodegradable plastic bags from the markets. The team also visited pharmacies and bakeries. There are very few plastics were seized, as some of them were tested and confirmed biodegradable by the experts. As the team moved around Bamenda 2 and 3 municipalities, traders were warned and reminded of the sanctions that await defaulters, that of 5 to 10 million francs CFA or 3 to 5 years imprisonment.
If you come here tomorrow and you saw that you have plastic, we will catch you.
Some traders complained that the method the government is using is crude, but ended up by saying they have no other choice but to obey. The non-biodegradable plastic bags that were seized were taken to the delegation for burning.
Pamela Ndukong there reporting. We come back to the 1st of May celebrations. We take you to activities marking the day in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, where leaders of labor unions in Yaoundé are demanding wage increment and better working conditions. They said the basic minimum wage of workers be increased from 28,000 to 100,000 francs CFA. Roland Akong tells us more.
On Labor Day in Yaoundé, a labor union leader tells this reporter that there is no dignity in labor when a worker earns 28,000 francs CFA as a monthly wage or salary. 28,000 francs CFA, in fact, is the basic minimum wage in Cameroon. One is forced to wonder if there is dignity in labor with 28,000 francs CFA. 28,000 francs CFA does not say much about decent wage. If Cameroon values its workers, it won't pay them 28,000 francs CFA. René Bena Ekedi, a labor union leader, voiced out his anger against 28,000 francs CFA as a minimum wage in Cameroon, with challenging remarks on what obtains in neighboring countries.
Le Gabon, c'est à 150 000 francs. La Guinée équatoriale, c'est 110 000. Le Congo-Brazzaville, 80 000 francs. Le Tchad, 70 000 francs CFA. La RCA, qui est en guerre actuellement, est à 35 000 francs. Et le Cameroun, qui est le porte-flambeau de la CEMAC, n'est qu'à 28 216 000 francs. Ce n'est pas normal.
Even the government does not pay its contract workers well.
Around 100,000 francs. Around 100,000 francs monthly. And you think you have to rent a house, to buy food, to pay transport, to pay it is not enough.
Pensions are not the best in Cameroon.
When you are going on retirement after 35 years, you will receive not more than 150,000 monthly. And in Burkina Faso, the same worker have 600,000 CFA francs.
Compounding indecent wages is indecent labor with poor conditions of work. In his Labor Day speech, Minister Gregoire Owona of Labor and Social Security also highlighted these crucial issues, but said nothing about what the government intends to do about them. Labor Day in Yaoundé was void of intense reflection on these crucial issues. It was a day for workers to put on uniforms and hang around meals and drinks.
Now, labor unions from the public service boycotted the March Past ceremony at the 20th May Boulevard, that's in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. They questioned why the government had to take the lead in the organization of the event and not them. They equally complained about low salaries and talking about trade unionists here in the economic capital, Douala. They were equally denouncing what they have termed low salaries, and they said that they want changes in the days ahead. It was at the UDX Square, which played host to the commemorative activities marking the 128th edition of the International Labour Day. We shall be coming back to that in a subsequent newscast. Now, intense work is still ongoing at the Logon Dike that is in the far north region of Cameroon to prevent the river from overflowing its banks, especially with the approaching rainy season. Some government ministers paid a visit to the area where workers are still constructing the dike, as Pamela Ndukong reports.
The local population of Mindi in the Far North region converged at the main square to welcome the delegation of 3 government ministers to that part of the country. The purpose of this visit by the Minister of Economy and that of Housing was to inspect and evaluate the level of work done at the Logon Dike so far. On arriving at the dike, work was seriously going on as workers from the military engineer units were busy with their heavy machines and caterpillars. The engineer told reporters that the first portion of some 2 kilometers has been completed. It should be noted that since the inundations last year, people who stayed behind the dike lived in fear, especially with the wake of the rains. But the engineer reassured reporters that the rains shall have no effect on the dike.
This place, for this stretch, the work has been done very good.
During the visit, locals of Mindi disclosed to the minister the numerous difficulties they face, that of lack of potable water supply, which the Minister of Economy, Emmanuel Junsi, told the population that there is a project online to solve that problem.
There is a project under implementation there in order to get the population of Mindi to benefit from the system of water supply.
The locals also indicated the necessity to have a road that linked Marwa, Mindi and Folere.
We propose that that will be taken into consideration, and when we come back to Yaoundé during the budgetary preparation, we will consider the situation.
The inhabitants of Mindi have been reassured by the minister that in the month of November latest, the work at the dike will be completed.
Now, the rector of the University of Douala has reassured athletes that accommodation and feeding would not be a problem during the games due to kickstart in 2 days. Dieudonné Oyono was speaking yesterday on the campus of the institution during the arrival of the Olympic flame. Jacques Kinge reports.
After traveling some more than 3,000 kilometers from Gaoundéré, the Olympic torch was received at the entrance of the Douala University by the rector of that institution, Professor Dieudonné Oyono, under the watchful eyes of students and administrative officials of that institution. According to Dieudonné Oyono, the arrival of the Olympic torch is a clear indication that the Douala University is ready come Saturday for the launching of the 17th edition of the University Games.
Comme vous pouvez le constater, le campus est en pleine effervescence.
As you must have realized, the campus is in full effervescence.
Nous sommes prêts.
I can affirm that at the level of infrastructures, we are ready. I can still affirm that the reception will be exceptional. The restoration and lodging, I promise, are going to be the best.
Ils seront nourris comme ils se doivent.
After the reception of the Olympic torch, it was time for the patron of the University of Douala to get a foretaste of Saturday's opening ceremony, as the students took time to rehearse the dance choreography that will be performed during the opening ceremony on Saturday. As the countdown to the University Games to be hosted this year by the University of Douala draws near, all is not still set, as carpenters could still be seen trying to do some finishing touches to the grandstand and other infrastructures. The rector all the same has promised that the Varsity Games Douala 2014 will be rated the best amongst all. This will be confirmed only on the 10th of May when the games end.
Brazil 2014, a series of reports continue. This time around, we talk about the 1998 World Cup. France became the 7th nation to win the World Cup and the 6th on home soil. That was after the 1998 event. The Blues stunned Brazil by 3-0 in the finals. For Hansen Chanji has the details.
The Copa de la Vida, the Cup of Life, held in France, was the 16th edition. It was the second time France played host to the World Football Jamboree. They won the bid 12-7 against Morocco to host the quadrennial tournament. 32 countries participated, played 64 games in 12 stadiums and scored 171 goals. Davos Soccer scored 6 goals to emerge as highest goal scorer, while Ronaldo of Brazil was named best player. For the first time, Croatia, Jamaica, Japan and South Africa qualified, and for the first time 5 African countries represented the continent, including Nigeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Cameroon and South Africa. In the final, the pre-match build-up was dominated by the omission of Brazilian striker Ronaldo from the starting lineup, only to be reinstated 45 minutes before the kickoff. He managed to create the first open chance for Brazil in the 22nd minute, dribbling past defender Thuram before sending a cross out on the left side that goalkeeper Fabien Barthez struggled to hold onto. France, however, took the lead after Brazilian defender Roberto Carlos conceded a corner kick, which Zinedine Zidane scored through a header. 3 minutes before halftime, Zidane scored his second goal of the match.
Por segunda vez, Zidane se anticipó.
Brazil reacted to this by making an attacking substitution, and although they applied pressure, France sealed the win with a third goal. Substitute Patrick Vieira set up his club teammate Emmanuel Petit in the counter-attack to shoot low past goalkeeper Claudio Taffarel. The then French President Jacques Chirac was in attendance to congratulate the winners and runners-up. Several days after the victory, winning manager Aimé Jacquet announced his resignation from the French team. France became the 7th nation to win the World Cup and the 6th on home soil.
A report there by Fohansin Chanji, bringing us to the end of this segment of the news. Up next, we talk about the 128th edition of the International Labour's Day. Today, thousands of Cameroonian workers, both from the public and private sectors, gathered today in different ceremonial grounds on the sidelines of the International Labour's Day, the 28th or the 128th of its kind. It was an opportunity for trade unionists here in the economic capital Douala and equally their counterparts in the nation's capital Yaoundé to advocate for better working conditions and wage increment. Tonight, we are going to be having a retired worker from the public service. Good evening to you, Mr. Davison D. Ate. Thank you for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Thank you, Mimefo. Happy Labour Day.
To you as well. Happy Labour's Day celebrations. We thank you so much for your time. I'll begin by asking, we heard from the report there by Roland Akong. He indicated that Labour's Union in the nation's capital are advocating for wage or benefits for retired workers to be increased from 150,000 to 600,000 francs CFA. What's your reaction as far as that's concerned?
My reaction right away is that it couldn't have been too soon. The present money, especially for retired workers, is so small, it's not a livable wage at all. The amount of money that we get from our various pension and retirement benefits do not permit us to live decently. And it's only natural that they should ask for more.
And there's a similar situation with every other Cameroonian that retires from the public service. How is life when you retire from the public service, given that the salary that or the benefits that you have is very, very low?
It's very, very low, as we just mentioned. But for the civil servant, it's even better. But for those in the private sector who have to depend on the national insurance, it's even worse, because you get people who are earning 1 million, 1.5 million, let's say 500,000 and above, suddenly come down, and I don't think any one of them earns as much as 150 or 200,000. And the cost of living, the cost of everything, transport, food, and most of them have actually still got to stay in town. They have children to support, they have their wives, they have their families, and they're very far from dying. The life is expanding. It's going on.
So it has a huge impact on them.
Yes, they cannot treat themselves decently in hospitals, and in fact, for the most part, they have to look for something else to do, which is depriving the young ones.
Even in their retirement?
Even in their retirement, depriving the young ones from getting into the job market.
Now, labor union or members of labor unions in Yaoundé and in Douala and equally across the country demanding that retirement benefits be increased from 150 to 600,000 francs CFA. We saw Roland Akong there indicating how the pay package of retirement workers in countries like Gabon and Equatorial Guinea is better off than the situation in Cameroon. Do you think that there is something that could be impeding or could be disturbing the Cameroonian government from implementing the policy or trying to do what Equatorial Guinea and Gabon is doing?
Well, while admitting that those countries are fewer in population and maybe they've got the means like the oil and so on, it's still not a good reason. Cameroon is rich enough and they can afford to pay their workers. I think the problem here is that, as I found out, because the problem was so serious that I took upon myself to want to ask to know, is that it depends on our parliamentarians on the one hand, and on the employers on the other, who have to contribute to retirement benefits. And they don't see any use for these people who are retired. They have no use to them. So it's not on their agenda.
Whereas one day they would get there.
Yes, they forget that today we are there, tomorrow they will join us.
So now, what are the roles of workers, if I should ask?
What
should workers do as far as increasing their retirement benefits, or their retirement benefits is concerned? What are their roles?
I think for the moment, the only chance they've got is that those who are there now should take note that in retirement the money is not enough, and do something and put pressure, if possible, even going on strike.
Like they are doing now?
Like they are doing, because when they would not be of any use, when they would have left their offices, they first of all will not even have the energy because they are old, they are aged, they are sick to make any pressure, but they will have no influence on anybody. So now is the time for those who are working to prepare for their future retirement by insisting that this problem be looked into and the money be increased.
Apart from the problem of retirement benefits, there's equally the problem of basic minimum wage that is preoccupying trade unionists. They want them increased from 28,000 francs to 100,000 francs CFA in a country like Cameroon. Do you think that even in the nearest future, 2, 3 to 5 years to come, is it a possibility?
Yeah, I think that's scandalous. I mean, it's a shame to mention to anybody what the minimum wage in this country is, because it's not a decent wage at all. To be honest with you, I don't see how these people live on that amount. For most of them, they'll have to do something else. Those that are busy, who are honest. But I think for the most part, they pilfer wherever they work. They steal from their workplaces, whether they are nurses or they are custom officers or they are policemen. They have to, because really a minimum wage as it stands is not viable at all.
Don't you think that, as many actors of the civil society, critics are saying, that these were some of the factors or some of the issues that the theme of this year's celebration was supposed to handle, instead of talking about the fight against HIV and AIDS?
Yeah, we're not trying to belittle the fight against HIV. You are right that there are more important things, such as this minimum wage and retirement.
Addition of workers.
It's far more important, and it could have been a better topic to let people think about and do something. The one of HIV, as I say, it's important, but I think we are sufficiently educated on that now. Everybody has at least, or knows somebody, or has somebody in the family who suffers or has suffered or has died from this disease, to the point where the stigma should have gone out of it by now. And in as much as we want there to be no stigma and for people to be considered normal and to live well, if they don't have a decent wage, how can they afford their medicine? How can they afford food? How can they afford to live decently? So I think you're right. That would have been a better topic. But I think a better theme for the Labour Day.
The fight against AIDS, it's still acceptable. Now, do you think that the International Labour's Day, is it the only opportunity, is it the sole opportunity for workers to come out revendicating for better working conditions? And don't you think they should do that on a daily basis so that their cries could get to the right headquarters?
You're right. It's an ideal situation, because here we're talking of labor, and it's their particular day, and everybody is focused on that. But we are right in the sense that it's something that they should think about all the time. The trade unionists should get serious and hammer on this point every day. They should not only the labor, the politicians, and everybody should be focused on it more frequently than just on one day. Labor Day is becoming like what the poor people, the lepers, say, that they only think of them on lepers, World Lepers Day, but they have the leprosy every day. It's a problem that we suffer every day. People should put more should think about it on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, and not just wait for the 1st of May to advocate for their rights and decry poor working conditions. We thank you so much, Mr. Devicente Ati, for joining us tonight in this edition of the news. We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Happy Labour's Day once again.
Thank you.
To our viewers, we thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you once again.